It's a dimmer. So Tiga, whatever you're happy with.
You saying turn it on or off?
No, you can dim them down. Although just so you get a better thing. It doesn't really matter, it's good enough.
I think so, yeah. Unless it's alright. Unless the camera's alright for the camera.
It's alright for the camera.
ज्ञान ध्यान किछ कर्म न जाना सार न जाना तेरी सब ते वड्डा सतगुर नानक जिन कल राखी मेरी सब ते वड्डा सतगुर नानक जिन कल राखी मेरी वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह. Realize this mic's quite loud, isn't it? So welcome back to the second week in this Nithanim course. This week we're going to be talking about Job Sahib. Whenever anybody hears Job Sahib, they're like, oof, oof, Job Sahib. Japji Sahib I can do, Rehda Sahib, Sohila Sahib, Job Sahib, too much people say that, but hopefully after today we'll realise it's not as scary as it sometimes sounds. So just to recap, so who here wasn't here last week? Who's new new? Okay, oh that's good then, yeah. So we'll do a quick recap on what we went through last week. So just the importance of reading Nithanim. I think I'm in the way, aren't I? Move over here. Just the... I think the speakers are there. Am I blocking you? Am I blocking it? Are you sure? Is that there? Yeah, I'm going to stick in this corner. So, just to recap, who can remember what the word Nithanim means? It's made two parts. Oh, smash it, Anji. Anji, really good, thanks so much. So Nit means daily, Nim means routine. So Nithanim is our daily routine of reading Gurbani. So the importance was that it's a reminder for us every single day. Oh, what's that? It's a reminder every single day of the importance of the message of a Guru. Right? So if we were to only do Nithanim once a week, then after 2 or 3 days, we might forget actually what a Guru is telling us. So every day when we hear, for example, Nirver, that we shouldn't have hate towards anybody, it's that constant reminder. And also it's a reminder throughout the day. So we may go to work or school after reading our morning prayers. When we come back, it just reminds us of that message of the Guru. Second is that the Banj Bani we read in the morning. Can you hear it? Does anybody else hear the sound? Can you hear it? Is it alright? If I go here, let me go. That's better. Is that okay? Is that better now? Okay, that's fine. So, the Banj Bani that we read every single morning, that creates Amrit, right? So, if when we have water and sugar crystals, we read those Banj Bani and that forms Amrit, imagine that our body is 70% water. So imagine when we read the Banj Bani every morning, what effect that's having on our body. Then it's an expression of love for our Guru, that when we love somebody, we want to spend time with them. We want to show them our love, that we want to speak to them. And when we read Gurbani, it's that expression of love for us, for our Guru. And we're saying to our Guru, first thing that when I wake up in the morning, I want to speak to you. I want to read Japji Sahib. That every day when I come back from work or school, again, I want to speak to you. And before we go to bed, I want to show you my love. That Gurbani is so deep, it's like an ocean. That we can't understand Gurbani just by reading it once. We have to read it again and again, and we get a deeper meaning. And I think last week I asked the Sangat that who's read a Pankti or a Shabad one day, and then the next day or completely other day, they read that same Shabad, and it means something totally different to them. And this is just an example of how deep Gurbani can be. It links Sikhs. So around the world, all those Sikhs that have been blessed with Amrit, a common thing for them is every morning, they're going to be reading their Nithanim. In the evening, in the night time. I mentioned that when I'm socialising with friends or the Singhs, and then we've got an evening programme, we'd always ask, when are we doing Rehda Sahib? Right? It links us together. And finally, reading Nithanim every single day allows us to memorise the Bani. That is a saying, Paisa Ganta, the Bani Ganta Paisa Gant. Meaning that when we have our Bani memorised, it's like having money, paisa, in our pocket all the time. When we're going through something, a problem, a difficult situation, or someone we know, that we have the wisdom of our Guru in our minds, that we can actually then share that wisdom. And then just to quickly recap on Japji Sahib. So Japji Sahib is the name of the Bani, Jap, which is the name, Ji is a sign of respect, Sahib meaning master, another sign of respect. And Japji Sahib used to be called Jap Nisan. But if we look at the old Bodhi Sahibs, so the older scriptures, it used to be written Nisan. So one meaning of Nisan can be a sign. So Japji Sahib is a sign of a Sikh. But also it can mean stamp. So like we have a letter, we have to put a stamp on it for it to reach its destination. But when we read Japji Sahib, it's like a stamp on our forehead that allows us to reach to Waheguru. Then we learned that Japji Sahib was recited in 3 different places at 3 different times. So the first part of Japji Sahib, which is called the Mahamantra. So Ik Oankar Satanam Karta Purkh Nirabhav Nirvair Akal Murt Ajuni Saipang Gur Prasad. That was recited when Guru Nanak Dev Ji went to the Vai Nadi to bathe in a river. They disappeared and they went to the court of Waheguru. Waheguru gave them this Mahamantra. Then when Guru Nanak Dev Ji came out of the Vai Nadi, they then completed the rest of this Mahamantra up to Nanak Ho Sipi Sach, which made the Mool Mantra. And then when Guru Nanak Dev Ji were on their travels, they went to a group of mountains called the Sumar Mountains. And this is where a group of people called the Siddhs were. They had spiritual powers, they had worldly powers. They were trying to get Guru Nanak Dev Ji to join them. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji had a conversation with them, and they wrote down these questions and answers in scriptures. And then later on, when Guru Nanak Dev Ji were in Sri Kartarpur Sahib, they blessed Bhai Lena, who was the name of Guru Angad Dev Ji before they became the Guru. They blessed them with the ability to organize these question and answers into the form we see now of Japji Sahib. So the structure, we have the Mool Mantra, then we have 38 Paudiya, so 38 steps, which is said to be the steps to Brahmgyan, to knowledge of Waheguru. And then we have the Salok, Bhavana Guru Pani Pita Mata Tarata Mahatta. And we talked about how Japji Sahib, the structure of Guru Granth Sahib Ji can be compared to a tree. That we have the seed of Japji Sahib, the seed of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, which was, does anybody remember? What's the seed? What's the beej? Hanji. Hanji, really good. Ik Oankar, the beej mantra. That a tree starts from that seed. And then we have the roots, which is Mool Mantra, Hanji. Then we have the bark, the trunk of the tree. That's the rest of Japji Sahib. And then the branches and the leaves, that's the rest of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So that's how it was compared to the structure of a tree. We heard the story of Bhai Gopalaji, where Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji said to the Sangat, who can read Japji Sahib Shuddh with perfect pronunciation? And eventually Bhai Gopalaji came forward, said, if you bless me, then I'll try. I think I may be able to. And when they were reading Japji Sahib, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji, they got so happy that they're reading it so perfectly that I need to give them something. And Guruji in their mind were thinking, do I give them a sarokpa? That's not enough. Do I give them rule of a village? That's not enough. Rule of 5 villages, rule of the world. And eventually they said, I need to make them the next Guru. I need to give them the Guruship. But by Gopalaji in their mind, they wanted a horse. One of the horses that was gifted to Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji. And so he got the horse. But it just showed us how important Japji Sahib was. And still is. Sanjanel Singh Ji, so they were reading over 100 Japji Sahibs every single day. And when 2 Singhs asked them how is this possible, that Sanjanel Singh Ji brought them to their chest and they could hear Japji Sahib being read from each and every pore of their body. Boli Sahib and Siri Muktsar Sahib, so these are places that you go to that Guru Sahib has given blessings, that if you go to Boli Sahib, then if you recite Japji Sahib on the first step, and then you bathe, and then again on the second step, and bathe, and then all the way up like that to the 84th step, that we receive mukti, liberation, from this cycle of 8.4 million life forms that we're constantly going through. Then we have Siri Muktsar Sahib, so that place where those 40 Singhs came back, who originally left Guru Gobind Singh Ji, but came back to sacrifice their lives to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, that place called Siri Muktsar Sahib, and Guruji said that whoever comes and bathes in the Sarovar here, that actually submerges themselves and reads Japji Sahib, then again, they receive mukti as well, liberation. We talked about Khandpat and the Panch Kakad, that when you read a Akhand Path, a Japji Sahib is normally read alongside, and reading that Japji Sahib fills in any mistakes, any things that said wrong, any gaps, and it makes it a full Akhand Path, a continuous recitation. Panchakar, that if our Gurban, our Ganga, or our Gara leaves our body, then if we do Japji Sahib, then it's asking for forgiveness for our Guru, and we are forgiven. And then we went through some of the key messages that when the Siddhs were asking, what do we put in front of you, Guruji, so we can experience your love? What can we speak from our mouths? That Guruji says, Amrit Vela Sach Nao, Vadiyai Vijar. Wake up at that ambrosial hours, roughly between the time of 3 and 6 a.m., and do Vijar, contemplate on the greatness of Vaheguru. The false practices, so Guruji went through these false practices that the Siddhs and many saintly people at that time were doing, that by bathing the outside, they thought they could get cleanliness on the inside, that by not speaking, they thought that they could silence their minds, that by reading so many texts, thinking they were so clever, winning arguments, that they thought they could take this with them to the next world, but they couldn't. So Guruji was talking about these, gaining fame, followers and praise. So Guruji was saying that you could live for 1,000,000 years and even 10 times more. You could be known across all the continents. You could have so many followers. You could have a great name. But that if Guruji doesn't bless you, they don't give that look of grace on you, nobody's going to ask about you. Then that classic phrase of just be a good person, that Guruji says that you could go to all these places of pilgrimage, you can give charities, you could be compassionate, all of these things that we are told today to do, but if we don't focus on Naam, then again, none of that is actually going to matter. That even all of these things will just account to a sesame seed's worth of kirpa, a sesame seed's worth of value. And then Guruji talked about how to clean ourselves. So if our body was dirty, we clean it with water. If we had urine on our clothes, we clean it with soap. But actually the filth of our mind, from all the sin that we've done, the mistakes we've made, that Naam is the way to clean that. And then we had a few examples of our Guru Sahibs that before they left this world, the last thing they did was read Japji Sahib. So Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji did that. Guru Arjan Dev Ji did that as well. Some Guru Sikhs as well, by Mati Das Ji, when they were sawed in half, they were reading Japji Sahib. When both their body parts fell to the side, you could still hear Japji Sahib being read. So that's just a quick recap. What I wanted to ask is if any Sangat wanted to share if since last session they'd started reading Japji Sahib, or if they started maybe reading some of Japji Sahib, or they started listening. If anyone wants to share, just be interested for maybe the Sangha to get inspired. Anji? Do you want to share, Ji? Okay, so you got one hand, that's good. I was thinking my talk couldn't be that good then if no one's... Anji? Oh, that's really good. So Benji's saying that now she started to try and memorize Japji Sahib, which is amazing, because like being able to just at any moment just think, right, you know what, I'm just going to do a Japji Sahib. You could be waiting at the bus stop, you could be waiting for anybody, or just even cooking food. Like to be able to read Japji Sahib over your food, like it's blessing your food, right? So that's amazing. Anybody else before we carry on? Oh, Hanji?
After my Nityanim, I've started doing more mantra job.
Oh, amazing. So BG said after his Nityanim now, he starts to do more mantra job. So Ikko Onkar, order to Nanak CB such. So that's amazing. At least it's amazing just to see the effect that just hearing about the amazing of Japji Sahib, the amazement of Japji Sahib, people have started to make those steps. So hopefully we can do the same for Jap Sahib. So on to Jap Sahib. So Japji Sahib is the first Bani that is in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So where can we find Jap Sahib written? Is it written later on in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, somewhere else? Hanji? Really nice and loud? Hanji, yeah, really good. So it's in the beginning of Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji means the Granth of the Dasam Guru, of the 10th Guru. So if I was to ask, what do we normally think of when we hear...
But you just want to explain to the Sangha what a Granth is.
Granth, so yeah, a Granth is a good question. So Granth is like a spiritual text. We have Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Even when somebody's coming into doing Gatha, for example, in India, when they would go to these places where you learn, you'd learn all these different Granths. So not necessarily Guru Granth Sahib Ji, but it's like a spiritual text, a text that teaches about spirituality or like high levels of thinking. So Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji is basically the Granth, Sahib meaning again a sign of respect, Ji a sign of respect of our 10th Guru. So Guru Granth Sahib Ji is again the Granth of our Guru. So it's just used, you hear it quite often even when you're reading books, they say, oh, there's a Granth, or there's a Granth here. So it's just it's like a spiritual text. So when we think of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, what is it that normally comes into our mind? What is it that we normally remember, or like the key features we think about when we hear Guru Gobind Singh Ji? Anybody want to share? What comes to mind when saying Guru Gobind Singh Ji? Anji? Khalsa, Anji? Anji? Jihad Sahibzade, Anji? Very loud? Biras, Anji, really good. Biras meaning warrior spirit. And so this is that often when we hear Guru Gobind Singh Ji, we think about their warrior aspects, right? Bidas, warrior spirit, how amazing they were with weapons, how powerful they were with the sword, with the bow, with the spear. But interestingly, Guru Gobind Singh Ji was just as powerful with the pen. So Guru Gobind Singh, they've written Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and here's a photo of a program in Birmingham. So on the left-hand side, you've got Guru Granth Sahib Ji written and being recited, and then on the right-hand side, that is Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the Bani of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and many people have, like Shankar, they have doubt that is Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji real, or like should we believe in Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji, or you know only Guru Granth Sahib Ji is Bani. Has anybody heard that? Like not, right? This is like, people have had that, right? So I just want to ask a question. So in the Panch Baniya that are read to make Amrit, how many of those comes from Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji? Anyone want to shout out?
Drop his hand.
And Joe yourself, how many in total of the 5? 3, Andy, someone's just doing that on their face. And yes, 3. So 60% of the Bani read to make Amrit is from Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji, right? So how can we then have doubt over Dasam Guru Granth Sahib Ji? If 60% of the Bani read to make Amrit is from there, then we know how powerful it is. It's Bani. It's the Bani, the words of our Guru, right? So in terms of where Jawab Sahib was first recited, it was recited by Guru Gobind Singh Ji in their previous life. So where the name at that time was Dust Daman. And what happened is they were meditating in this place and they became so connected to Waheguru that they came in front of Waheguru themselves. And they started doing their praise. They started saying how amazing Waheguru Ji was. And that became Jawab Sahib. And at this time, Waheguru Ji said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Dus Daman at the time, they said, I want you now to come back into the world as Guru Gobind Singh Ji to save the world, because the world is in suffering. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji at that time, they said that they were in so much bliss, they said, I don't want to leave you, Waheguru. But they said that I'll accept your hukam if you never leave me, if you're always with me when I go into the next world. And Waheguru Ji agreed, and then Guru Gobind Singh Ji came back to save the world, and still is saving the world. And the second time, the other time that Guru Gobind Singh Ji then recited Jawab Sahib was when they were in they were in City Anandpur Sahib. And some Guru Sikhs came to Guru Gobind Singh Ji and saying, Guruji, the previous Gurus have their Bani in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Amar Das Ji, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, many of the Gurus, as well as many Hindu saints and Muslim saints. But they said, please bless us that we can hear Bani from your beautiful mouth, that we can hear your Bani. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji, they said that I will give you Jawab Sahib that I recited in my previous life. And when the Guru Sikhs came to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, they were actually sitting in Beed Asan. Does anybody know what Beed Asan means? So we did half the word when Biji said Beed Das, that's warrior spirit. So Beed Asan is the warrior position. So I'll do a little demo. Let me put it. So basically, you know when we do Matadik, we see when people Matadik, they go on both knees and then Matadik like this, right? Has anybody seen it where somebody Matadik's like this? Anybody seen that? So that again, that is like the bead asan, the warrior position. Does anybody know why would somebody Matadik like this with one leg up? Hanji, you say so?
So like you're always ready to
Hanji, exactly. So it means that they're always ready for battle. As warriors of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, especially the Nahang Singh, so a sector of the Sikhi that are like the military side. Like their expertise in military. They wear blue often, they wear a lot of shastra, a lot of weapons around their head as well. So Bir Asan is they were always ready. So that's how Guru Gobind Singh Ji was sitting when they came to them. And then at another time, around the similar time actually, somebody called Gansi Ram came to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and he said the Bani of the previous Gurus is so peaceful, it's so blissful. It's like Shant Bani, right? It gives us that peace. But we're living in a time now where people are killing our daughters, our mothers, our brothers, our fathers. That the innocent people are being killed, and we need to stand up and fight. You've taught us about Dharam, standing up for what's right. Now please give us a Bani that will give us Shakti, that will give us Biras, warrior spirit. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji again said that I'll give you Jab Sahib. And this Jab Sahib doesn't give just a Khalsa warrior spirit, it gives the whole world Khalsa spirit. And so just into the structure of Jab Sahib. So there are 199 verses in Jab Sahib. Does anybody know why did Guru Gobind Singh Ji not just write 200 verses? Like a nice round number, isn't it? 200. Why stop at 199? Anybody know? So one of the reasons is that Jab Sahib is the praise of Waheguru, right? So we have Japji Sahib tells us about the Bani of Brahmyan that gives us wisdom of Waheguru. It tells us about these false practices, of what hukam is, of the power of listening, power of accepting, power of implementing, and so much more wisdom. And we realize that what we need to do is praise Waheguru, remember their name. And then the next Bani we read, Jab Sahib, which is all praise. It's just continually praising Waheguru. So Guru Gobind Singh Ji, instead of doing 200, a complete number, they did 199 verses to say that we can never complete the praise of Waheguru. We can never reach the end of the praises. So this is the reason why Guru Gobind Singh Ji did 199 instead of 200. And if we look at the structure, so Jab Sahib is written in chands. And chand is a poetic form that tells you about the syllables in each chand, and also the reason for the tempo, the melody. And there's 22 chands altogether, and the 10 types. So we have Chapay Chand, Ruwala Chand, Rasabal Chand, Harbolmana Chand, Ek Achari Chand, Jarpata Chand, Madhbar Chand, Bhagavati Chand, Jajri Chand, and Pujang Chand. And each one of these has specific characteristics. And it's really interesting when we learn about each one of these. So we're not going to go through all of them, but we're just going to cover 3 of the types of chands. So we've got Jajri Chand. So Jajri Chand in each of the lines has 4 syllables. And it mimics like the swiping of a sword, the striking of a sword, really quick. So if we just read it, and what I've done is I've included a Jajri Chand at the beginning of Jab Sahib and a Jajri Chand towards the end, so we can actually see the similarities in how the rhythm goes. So we have Jajri Chand saying this is the Chand called Jajri. Duet Prasad. Duet Prasad means by your grace. Duet, your, Prasad, grace. So Guruji is saying that I've only been able to recite this Bani by your grace, Waheguru. So I'm going to do it in the Jal now. So Jajri Chand Duet Prasad, Arupa hai, Anupa hai, Ajuva hai, Pu hai, Lekh hai, Pek hai, Anam hai, Agam hai, Te hai, Pe hai, Jeet hai, Peet hai, Tirman hai, Nidan hai, Tirbarga hai, Asarga hai. So you can see it's quite quick, like 4 syllables, really quick like a sword. And if we just read the Jajri Chand in the next, it sounds very similar. Jajri Chand, Apanga hai, Ananga hai, Pek hai, Lekh hai, Parama hai, Karma hai, Anad hai, Jugada hai, Jaya hai, Ba hai, Puta hai, Tuta hai, Nas hai, Das hai, Tanda hai, Banda hai. So you can see it sounds similar, right? So again, it's using that 4 syllables, and like it's quick, like the striking of a sword. Then we have Pujang Chand. So Pujang means snake. So Guruji is saying that the rhythm that this verse is set to is like a snake going in and out. So we have Pujang, Priyat. So Priyat is made up of 2 bits. So Par, meaning like to the other side. And then Yat, from the word Yatra, mean like a journey. So saying that this Bani, this Pujang Chand, is like the journey that we get to cross the other side. By reading this, we get to cross the other side. It's our journey. The other side meaning the other side of this world ocean. That's so difficult to cross. So Pujang Priyata Chanda, Agade, Abade, Anandi, Sarupe, Namo Sarvamane, Samasti Nidane, Namastwang Ninate, Namastwang Pramate, Namastwang Aganje, Namastwang Apanje, Namastwang Akale, Namastwang Apale, Namo Sarvadese, Namo Sarvapese. So we can hear how it's like a very like a rhythmic going in and out like a snake. And then we have the same style of chant on the right hand side. Ujam Priyata Chanda, Namastwang Akadle, Namastwang Kripale, Namastang Rupe, Namastang Nupe, Namastang Peke, Namastang Leke, Namastang Gaye, Namastang Jai, Namastang Ganje, Namastang Panje, Namastang Aname, Namastang Atame. So you can hear as well, even though they're two different verses in Jab Sahib, they have the same rhythm. And then just the final one we're going to go through, Madhbar Chanda. So Madh means middle, Bar means like weight. So this is saying that in this chand, the weight, the bar, is put on the middle of the line. So we got Madhbar chand, and again, Dua Prasad, only through your Kirpa Vaheguru. Madhbar chand Dua Prasad, Gun Gan Udar, Mahma Apar, Asan Apam Upama Anang, Anapo Prakas, Nisdin Anas, Ajana Bao, Sahan Saura, Jana Rajapana, Apan, Devana Dev, Upamamahan, Indrana, Indrapal, Lana Pal, Rankana, Rankakala, Anakala. So everyone hear that it was a very like in the middle the weight was there, right? And then again on the right hand side, later on in Jab side, same Madhbar Chanda, but again slightly different message. Madhbar Chanda, Dua Prasad, Mun Man Pranam, Gun Gan Gundam, Arbar Aganja, Har Nar Prapanja, Angan Pranam, Mun Man Salam, Har Nar Akanda, Bar Nar Amanda, Anapav Anas, Mun Man Prakas, Gun Gan Pranam, Jal Tarmudam. And so it's amazing because when I did research this a little while ago and recently, each chand in the whole of Jab Sahib has a specific rule, like a melody, a beat to it. And when we hear sometimes Jab Sahib and like the audio we listen to on YouTube, it doesn't often take into account of this. And so like it just shows how amazing Guru Gobind Singh Ji, they're using these chands which were existed at the time, but to write the praise of Waheguru in. And when it's read, the whole of Jab Sahib, when it's read in the way that it's meant to, it's amazing, right? And we can just, even when we're reading it now, compared to, for example, Anand Sahib, right? Ananda Paya Miri Mai Satguru Me Paya is a very kind of, it is the Bani of bliss, right? Ananda. It's a very kind of peaceful Bani. Compared to like how it was being read now, is you can kind of feel like you get a bit of like power from it, right? A bit of joy. And that's what it's for. It gives the everybody who reads it power. And so just a question, so this is Aurangzeb. Does anybody know who Aurangzeb was? Anybody? Hanji? Hanji, yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, so they were the Mughal emperor at the time of Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji. So they were responsible for Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji having to sacrifice themselves, right? And does anybody know what weapon Guru Gobind Singh Ji used to kill them? Anybody have a guess? Hanji? Yeah, that's it, the pen. So Guru Gobind Singh Ji killed them with a pen, right? Not like this, but they wrote a Bani. They wrote a Bani called Zafarnama. And in Zafarnama, Guru Gobind Singh Ji talks about the praise of Waheguru, the history of Jamgod Sahib, that battle where there were 40 Sikhs against over 1 million. But they also talked about the negative qualities of Aurangzeb, how they actually broke their oath to the Quran, about something that happened in the Battle of Siri Anandpur Sahib, where they promised something, Aurangzeb promised something on the Quran, but they went against their word. And reading this, Aurangzeb, they got ill and they died. Just from the words of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, from their pen, from the Bani they wrote. And just as we go through the meanings, we're just putting a few sakya here and there just to show us how amazing Jab Sahib is, because often we don't hear about these. I hadn't heard of a lot of these stories actually. So there's someone called Sant Thakur Nahar Singh Ji, and they went to Hazur Sahib where Guru Gobind Singh Ji was. They said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, said, Guruji, you've given us Shastar and Shastar. So you've given us Shastar, weapons, like the sword, the bow and arrow, the spear, but also Shastar, which is again like spiritual scriptures. You've given us Jab Sahib. Now what I want to do is I want to do praise of your Bani Jab Sahib. So they started doing the praise. And they wrote a steek, which is like an explanation of something else. And that steek on the praise of Jab Sahib was 1,132 pages. So if you just imagine, Jab Sahib takes around 15 minutes to read. If you're really, really fast, maybe 10 minutes. So to do an explanation over 1,000 pages, you just can imagine how amazing Jab Sahib must be. So when they were actually writing this steek, they went to somewhere called Nanak Jida Sahib. So this is somewhere where Guru Nanak Dev Ji went to visit, right near to Hazur Sahib. And a sadhu came to them who had leprosy. So they came to them, they had blood in their mouth, just coming out of their mouth. They had this disease of leprosy, a really difficult disease to bear, a really serious disease where it affects your skin, like in the photo. And they sent to Santji, they said, look, I've had enough. I just want to die. I'm in too much pain. And Santji said to them, they said, why don't you go to Hazur Sahib, start doing seva, and start reading Jap Sahib. So the sadhu, they did just this. So they went to Hazur Sahib, they started doing Jodi Adi Seva, which is where you clean the shoes of the Sangat, and you put them neatly. And this is because in the dust of the feet of the Sangat, there's so much blessings. Guru Granth Sahib, he talks about this. So they started doing that and reading Jap Sahib, and before he knew it, after a few months, that disease had disappeared. Completely. The pain had gone, the disease had gone. So he came back to Sant Thakur Nihar Singh Ji and said, after a few months, all my pain is gone. I don't have this disease anymore. And Santji, what they did is they put their hands in the air and they said, Jap Sahib is the gate to Sachkhand itself. So that's how amazing Jap Sahib is. It takes you to Vaheguru. And Jap Sahib, so much of Jap Sahib, like we heard just then, is in the form of namaskar. So Guruji uses these words, Namo, Namastwang, Namastast, Namastang, Namastul. These are all various ways of saying a namaskar, like bowing. Right? You're bowing to something. You're bowing to Vaheguru. How amazing Vaheguru is, that's all Guru Gobind Singh can say. That I can just bow to this quality, to that quality. So does anybody know what's the importance of namaskar, of bowing? Why is it that Guru Gobind Singh Ji has written so much of Jap Sahib in this format? There's no wrong answers, we're all here to learn. Me too, I've learned stuff from you guys. Hanji. Submission, Hanji, really amazing. It's submission. Right? Even when we come to see Guru Granth Sahib Ji, that we can stand in front of Guruji and say, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. But when we actually do namaskar and we bow down, it just adds a whole level to it, right? That we're actually physically with our body saying, Guruji, I'm a sacrifice to you. Namaskar, I'm here to bow towards you. You are everything. Right, so it adds that other level. Really good, GVG. Thanks so much. Any more? Satgad, Hanji. It's a sign of respect. That many people, even still now today, when they see their parents, they do namaskar. In other countries like Japan and China, it's really big still there. They do namaskar to each other. In martial arts as well, they do namaskar. So it's a sign of respect people have for each other. Thanks so much, Benji. Anybody else? So another thing is that when something is greater than you, or that is so great that you can't help but do